Am I the a-hole for purposefully sending my cousin the wrong timing for a movie so the others could enjoy? I, 16 female, brother Nate, 17 male, was diagnosed with AITA when he was 12. At first I walked on eggshells around him, but things are much better now. Most family members know and understand that AITA is not just tantrums, but a serious issue. Some do not. One of my cousins, Kira, 17 female, is one of those people. Ever since my parents informed the family about Nate being diagnosed, she has done nothing but intentionally push his buttons at every family gathering, outing, or whenever we are together. My parents have talked to my uncle and aunt about this, but they brush it off, calling it pranks. Now my parents will not under any cost damage relations with my dad's brother and his family, or my dad's other siblings. None of my other cousins like Kira or her family. We are forced to be cordial because of our parents. Kira has to be invited every time us cousins hang out together, most of the time ending with Nate being triggered by Kira. The day before yesterday, we all planned to watch a movie. Our parents knew this, so of course they told Kira's parents, who told her. She messaged me and asked me where and when we were supposed to meet at. My brother had been really looking forward to this movie and meeting our cousins after a few months in person. He had also been in a really good mood, and I didn't want Kira to ruin it, so I did what I thought was best at the time. I gave her the wrong timing. I told my cousins and Nate what I did, and they were fully on board. After the movie finished, we came out of the theater and waited for some time in the parking lot. As soon as we saw Kira pulling over, waving at us, all of us waved back with the sweetest smiles, made a run for our cars, got in, and left. As expected, when me and Nate reached home, we were immediately ambushed by our parents about why we abandoned Kira. Apparently she had cried all the way home. My parents grounded me and Nate for 2 weeks. He surprisingly took it well and said it was worth it. The rest of my cousins were grounded as well. I did text them telling them they could tell their parents it was my idea, but my cousins refused and reiterated what my brother had said. I thought that was the end of it, but my parents have been really hurt by this, and said me and Nate humiliated them in front of Kira's parents, and that Kira has been inconsolable since. So a lot of people are wondering why I invited her, rather than telling her outright not to come. I didn't invite her. My parents did. Also, if I tried to deny the invitation, then none of my aunts or uncles or my parents would have let us go. I see how waiting around may have been an a-hole move. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? I have a cousin who was enabled in her poor behavior our entire childhood. Peers like me were forced to socialize with her because family, so she didn't really feel the impact of not having a lot of school friends, because it was a very large family that provided a social support network in its own right. By the time she was an adult, she was still entirely self-centered, physically and verbally abusive, and the definition of inconsiderate and ungrateful, and was totally hurt and baffled when no one ever reached out or wanted to socialize with her once it was optional. Now that she's in her mid-30s, I get the impression that she's slowly starting to learn that it is her treatment of others that has left her so alone, but it's hard to shift after a lifetime of learning to get your way by being generally awful and never seeing real consequences for it. I think a true prank leaves both parties laughing afterwards. And a good one has the prankee laughing about it years later. Case in point. 25 years ago I asked a coworker if he knew any good bars downtown. I had just turned legal, and I'd spent most of my life in a little one-pig town out in the boonies, so I had no idea. He recommended one, I thanked him, and went there the next time I had a night off. I got there, and something seemed off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it until about 10 seconds before some dude came over and started hitting on me. Yeah, my coworker had recommended a gay bar just to screw with me. So I declined his advances, finished my drink, and left. Next time I saw my coworker I said something about WTF, dude, you said it was a good working man's bar, and that I'd love it. He said, oh yeah, it was exactly that before the gays took it over. And then I realized he was screwing with me all in good fun. We had a laugh, and I still tell the longer version of the story 25 years later. Sometimes, the best way to get back at petty people is to give them a taste of their own medicine, because apparently, it is the only language they understand themselves. For years upon years I always told myself that pettiness was not the answer, but I slowly and surely started to break down mentally, just because I let these types of people get away with their shit time after time. I have just started getting petty when the situation calls for it, and only when the other person deserves it. Now, instead of awful memories that torment me, by allowing another person to humiliate me, I silently laughed to myself about the time I told so and so that maybe the dingo ate her baby. Op is NTA. And quite frankly, I am appalled that Op's parents allow the cousin to treat her son that way. Are they even aware of half the shit she does to him? As someone who worked with people who have a variety of behavioral needs, cousin's way of handling things is simply uncalled for. Obviously all the cousins hate when she's around. Therefore, all the cousins need to prank Kira. Now, you need to make sure you use the exact same pranks she's done in the past. If you all do that, the parents, except Kira's of course, can blame you because you can explicitly say when and where she had done that to you or your brother. After all, this are parental approved actions. Make sure all your cousins are in on it. Keep a record to make sure you all have times and places where the pranks occurred. Keep a point system if you want on who gets the biggest reactions from her. If you want to create that immediate negative response to her behavior, the minute she starts trying to antagonize someone, the rest of the cousins need to immediately do the same to her. It's one thing for her to pick on one vulnerable person and have that person react. It's a whole different thing if she immediately experiences that same behavior directed back at her by 9 other people. Cover your bases and make sure to have specific examples of what she's done to back up your point that you're all just pranking her. Big time bonus if you all start wearing GoPros to film her every time she's around you guys. Hard to argue with video evidence, so essentially my advice is to out-bully the bully. No, it's not a nice thing to do, and I wouldn't suggest it for any other situation, but you need to protect your brother from her. I wish you all the best of luck. At it. Wow guys, not sure why I need death threats in my messages. Let me emphasize that my suggestions is only to protect the brother because he is literally being harmed by Kira. How is it any different than if she showed up and gave him 2 black eyes every week? Wouldn't everyone be telling the cousins that they should be physically defending him because he can't effectively defend himself? The adults in the family have given Kira the right to abuse Nate and have taken away his ability to stop it by either avoidance of her or equal level response. Not only are they letting Kira give him 2 black eyes, they're tying his hands behind his back to prevent him from stopping it. The cousins are actively being punished for not being bullied because their personal items are being destroyed when I stuck around for a while since it worked perfectly with my college schedule, and I was treated very well from that point on. We definitely came to an understanding and ended up having a great working relationship. He used to reach out from time to time via LinkedIn. Funny story though. When I was working at a hotel, he was hiring for new employees in a store that was opening in our area. Yay, retail, and I spotted him the minute he walked up the desk. I greeted him, and he immediately grabbed my hand and asked what it would take to steal me from there and come work for him. I laughed and said I was happy there. I had a great boss. He grinned and said he was going to steal Mr. anyway. My current boss at the time looked him dead in the eye and said like hell you are. She isn't leaving this. Your parents need to understand that their behavior isn't okay either. They need to be good parents and actively protect your brother against Kira and her bullshit. All the adults in this story are such hypocrites. So, it only counts when Kira's feelings are hurt? Not when Kira is purposefully being and hurts the people around her? I hope your parents learn from this, and if you could, I would suggest showing them this thread. The fact that all your cousins and your brother are with you means that Kira's entitled and crappy behavior has annoyed everyone. She's turning 18 soon, and all of you are going to be adults at some point. No adult can then force you to include her. No one will put up her crap. She needs to learn that her actions have consequences. I've dealt with this situation a bit early, and from what I can tell it boils down to they aren't willing to discard their longest-standing relationship with their sibling over something that they've been told by someone they trust implicitly. Their sibling is just a joke prank. They've just built the relationship up so much into a permanent fixture of their life that anything challenging it gets met with massive amounts of extra skepticism. It's further compounded when the abuser acts nicely towards the intermediary and abuses the victim out of sight. At that point, you're left with a he said she said between the intermediary's longest-standing friendship and one that's less long-standing. Parents should weight their children with more priority, but they don't necessarily, especially when the abuser is telling them it was all just a joke and not to worry about it.